Hello everyone, this is Savita Acharya from Canara Engineering College. In this video lecture, we will study various loops used in behavioral modeling. Next is loops. Okay, there are basically four types of loops: while, for, repeat, and forever. So first we'll look at the while loop. The while loop executes until the while expression becomes false. Okay. Before that, a general statement for all loops. All looping statements can appear only inside a initial or a always block. Okay. So loop is a construct, sequential construct. So this should always appear inside a initial or always block under behavioral modeling. We look into an example of while loop. So while loop syntax is very much similar to your C programming. Okay. So it executes until the while expression becomes false. So this example is to increment a variable count from 0 to 127 and it should exit at count 128. So I declare a variable count of type integer. Then now here I have the initial block. Always block is not required because in the always block we put a sensitivity list which should trigger the continuous looping of that execution of always block. But here it is not required. Initial block will be executed only once. Inside that we have the loop with the appropriate condition. So here I say inside the initial block count is initialized to 0. Okay. And now I have the while loop inside which I say until count is less than 128. That is, it will enter the loop till count is less than 128. That means till count is equal to 127, it will enter the loop. On when count becomes equal to 128, it will exit the loop. Okay. So inside the loop I say begin. So again, if there is only one statement inside a loop, then you can simply write like that. But if there are multiple statements, more than one statements inside the loop, then they should be enclosed between begin and end. So I have here two statements. That's why I have enclosed between begin and end. So the first statement is a display statement where I say count equal to %d count. Okay. Whatever the value of count will be displayed here and I increment the value of count equal to count plus 1. So this loop will go on continuously till count becomes equal to 127. When it becomes 128, this condition is not satisfied. 128 is not less than 128. So it will come out of the loop. As a second example, I have the program is find the first bit with the value 1 in flag. Flag is a 16-bit vector variable. Okay. So here I have to begin with two compiler directives, that is define true is 1 and false as 0. So flag is a 16-bit register, I is integer. In addition, I have one more register called as continue. This is required to combine the condition for checking for the first bit with the value of 1. So here inside the initial block, I assign some 16-bit value to flag. Okay. And first we begin with I equal to 0. I is used to traverse through this register. And I also initialize continue to true. So in the while condition, I merge multiple conditions using operators. Say while I less than 16. This is to indicate the length of the flag register. Length of the flag register is 16. So the index is 0 to 15. right? So this condition is as long as I is less than 16, that is till it goes up to 15 it has to check. And this condition I have combined with the continue. Continue is a register which I have initialized to true. So as per this expression, to enter the while loop, both these conditions should be true. Right? Both these conditions should be true. That is, continue should have a value of true as well as I should be between 0 to 15. So the idea here is I have a 16-bit register flag and I have some value in that 16-bit register. So I will be starting from 0. I is 0. I will start from 0 and check every bit of this flag register. Okay. So whenever I come across a first one bit in the register, then I have to come out of the loop saying that I have encountered a 1 bit in this position. So the position value will be given by I. That is what I have mentioned here. I is 0. So starting from 0, it will check every bit of a flag register, and as soon as it comes across a 1, that position will give me the position, that value of I will give me the position of the bit 1, right? So soon after that you have to change the value of continue, because once you come across a 1 bit, first 1 bit, then you need not check for the remaining length till the remaining length of flag. That is why there are two conditions combined. Either length should be less than 16 or continue should be true. Okay. So once both the conditions are satisfied, then it will enter the loop. Now I check if flag of I means I is 0 first, flag of I means flag of 0, 0th bit. I am checking if flag of I is equal to 1. So if I don't write anything, it means that I am checking for a value 1. Inside that, if it is true only, it will enter the loop and enter this if block. If it is false, say first bit is not 1, so this condition will not be satisfied. In that case, it will come out of the if block, and outside the if block I am incrementing I by 1. So this end and end will make the execution come back to the while loop again. So here now I is 1, so 1 is less than 16 and still continue is true. It will again check. So once it comes across a 1 bit, a bit with the value 1, in that case it will enter this if block where I display encountered a true bit at element number %di. As I have told you, I gives you the position of the bit which is 1. And soon after that I make continue equal to false. Now again I will be incremented by 1 and it will come back to the while loop. I less than 16 is true, because here it would be 15, 14, this would be 13. So I equal to I plus 1, it will be 14. So 14 is less than 16, but continue is false. So this whole condition will be false, due to which it will come out of the while loop and exit, right? So this is another example for while loop where you are merging two conditions. The second type of loop is the for loop. So the for loop contains three parts: an initial condition, a check to see if the terminating condition is true, and a procedural assignment to change value of the control variable. This is very similar to the for loop that you have come across in C. Okay. So we'll take up the same example of counting from 0 to 127. So in this, the for loop will be very short, that is for count equal to 0. This is the initial condition, and the final terminating condition is as long as count is less than 128. So it has to count till 127. When it becomes equal to 128, it has to come out of the loop. That's why the condition is less than 128 and count equal to count plus 1. So here the incrementing the procedural assignment to change the control variable, that also is included in the function for loop definition line itself. Okay. So the for loop will have only one statement inside the loop, that is the display statement to display the count value of count. Okay. So this for loop is a very compact structure of a while loop. But while loop is a generalizing loop used in many cases. For loop cannot be substituted for while loop for all applications. The for loop can also be used to initialize an array or memory as shown. So here this is an example where we are using the for loop to initialize array elements. So for that I have defined max states as 32 using the compiler directive define. And next I declare integer state 0 to max states minus 1. I have declared state as an integer type array and I specified the size of the array as 0 to max states minus 1. That means 32 minus 1, 31. So the array elements are going to take the index state of 0 to state of 31. So note the declaration here. If you had put this in before the signal state, then you would be declaring state as an 32-bit vector. Now by specifying the size after the state signal, this is the way in which you declare arrays. So integer array state with elements 0 to 31. Then I have declared I as an integer. So I will be using as a counter variable for the for loop. Inside the initial block I have two for loops. So the main task that we are doing here is we are initializing all even locations of the array state with 0 and all odd locations of the array state with 1. So for that I have the first for loop which starts from 0. So I want to access all even locations. So it should be 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 and so on. So I have started initialization with the 0 and terminating condition is I less than 32. That is it has to go up to 31. So less than 32. And here the incremental assignment is I equal to I plus 2. I want to change it by 2 units, right? So inside the loop I say state of I equal to 0. So initially I will be equal to 0. So state of 0 is 0. Next 0 I equal to 0 plus 2. So that means I becomes equal to 2. Next I say state of 2 equal to 0. Next state of 4 equal to 0 and so on. So next for loop that I have will be accessing the odd locations. So for that I will initialize accordingly. I have initialized I to 1. So it has to go like this 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and so on. So terminating condition is I less than 32 and incremental assignment is I equal to I plus 2. So inside the loop I put state of I equal to 1. So it will go like this: state of 1 is 1, next state of 3 is 1, state of 5 is 1 and so on. Okay. So this is the end of the initial block. So for loop can be used where you have a fixed beginning and a fixed end. Okay. But when there are cases where the looping happens based on a specified condition, then it is always best to use while loops. The third type of loop is the repeat loop. Okay. The repeat construct executes the loop a fixed number of times. A repeat construct cannot be used to loop on a general logical expression. So here repeat is a keyword following which you will put a fixed number. So whatever is enclosed in the repeat loop, that is between begin and end statement of the repeat loop following the repeat statement, will be executed that many number of times. So you cannot put a condition on a general logical expression. General logical expression is used when you are using while loop. So a repeat construct must contain a number which can be a constant, a variable or a signal value. However, if the number is a variable or signal value, it is evaluated only when the loop starts and not during the loop execution. So understand that either the repeat construct should have a fixed number which is a constant value, or you can have a variable or a signal value as well. But this variable and signal values are not evaluated every time the loop is executed, unlike in while condition, while loop. In while loop, what happens? For every iteration of the while loop, the condition is evaluated. If the condition is satisfied, it will enter the while loop. Otherwise, it will come out of the while loop. So that thing will not happen here. Even if you put a variable or a signal inside the repeat construct, that will be evaluated only when the loop starts execution. At the time of starting of the loop, whatever is the value, that will be taken and it will be the loop will be executed that many fixed number of times. An example of a repeat loop, that is, we'll take up the same example of counting from 0 to 127 using now the repeat loop. So for that I have integer count, and inside the initial block I have initialized count to 0. After that I have this repeat loop. I say repeat 128 times. Okay. So first the count is 0. Then 128 times, if it will repeat, means it will stop at when the count becomes equal to 127, because inside the loop I am incrementing the value of count. So inside the repeat loop, so whatever statements you need to put inside the repeat loop, you will put in between begin and end block. So here a begin and end statement. So inside the loop I have the display statement which displays the value of count, and after that I say count equal to count plus 1. So this will be, it is not going to check, evaluate, it is just has taken that constant value. So these two statements will be executed 128 times. So when count becomes equal to 128, it will come out of the loop. Okay. So we'll see one more example using this repeat loop. We'll see how to model a data buffer, okay, which latches data for the next 8 clock cycles. So I'll just give a brief idea of this. So here I have a data start signal, which is a single bit signal. When this data start signal is active, the data starts coming, data starts arriving. Okay. And this data is a 16-bit data. The data width is, size of the data is 16-bit. So as soon as the data arrives, it is to be buffered. That is, it is to be stored in a data buffer. Now this task I want to repeat for the next 8 clock cycles. That means for the first clock cycle, data will once the data start signal is high, for the first clock cycle, the data will arrive, 16-bit data will arrive. I'll store it in a data buffer. For the second clock cycle, second data will arrive. That I need to, again that is 16-bit wide, that I need to store in the data buffer. So this should happen for next 8 clock cycles. Okay. So for that we'll see the program. So I have module data buffer. In that the ports I have taken as one is data start signal, one is data and clock. So data start signal is a single bit, clock is a single bit, and data is 16-bit data. Okay. And before that I have declared a parameter named cycles equal to 8. This is going to keep track of the number of iterations the repeat loop is to be executed. Now next I am declaring a register called as buffer. So here you see 15 down to 0 buffer. So I have put this 15 down to 0 before the signal buffer, meaning buffer is a 16-bit vector, right? So since data that I am receiving is a 16-bit data, I have declared buffer which is 16-bit vector. So that data I will be storing in the buffer. Now this is not done. I have put after the signal buffer 0 up to 7. That means I have declared buffer as a 8 element array. 0 to 7 means 8 elements array. So meaning of this declaration is buffer is a 8 elements array with each element being 16-bit wide. Understood? So I want to store the data that is arriving on the application of the data start signal into this buffer. Since I want to repeat this for next 8 clock cycles, I have declared buffer as a 8 element array. So every iteration I want to store data into this buffer. So since data is 16-bit wide, each location of buffer also is 16-bit wide. Next integer I. Now I have included the always block. That is always, so all the sequential circuits we have synchronized with respect to the positive edge of the clock. So only on the application of the positive edge of the clock it will enter this always block, and we check whether the data signal start signal is active. So if data start is active only, it will enter the if block, otherwise it will wait till the data signal is active for every positive edge of the clock. Now inside the block I have put I equal to 0. This I am using to traverse through the array buffer, right? Buffer we have declared as an array of 8 elements. So each element we will be referring by buffer of 0, buffer of 1, buffer of 2, buffer of 7 and so on, right? So that's why I have used this I to index the array elements. Now coming to the main part, I repeat cycles. So I use the repeat loop, and inside the parenthesis I have used cycles. So cycle is a parameter which I have declared as, which I have initialized as 8. Okay. Now inside this, whatever is inside the begin and end block statements of this repeat loop will be executed. Sorry, begin and end of this repeat loop will be executed 8 times. So inside the repeat block, I have at positive edge of clock. Again, the transfer also should happen at the positive edge of the clock. Buffer of I equal to data. So data is the 16-bit data that will be arriving on the application of the data start signal. So that I have stored in buffer of 0. That is the first element of the array buffer. Now first element of the array buffer is 16-bit wide. Data is 16-bit wide. So it is compatible. I am storing data into buffer of 0. Next, to refer to the next element of the array, I equal to I plus 1. So this 2 will be repeated 8 times irrespectively, because repeat loop is simply repeating whatever you put inside that loop the fixed number of times. So this will be repeated for 8 clock cycles. So buffer of 0, buffer of 1, buffer of 2 up to buffer of 7 will be stored with the different data that will be arriving for every next positive edge of the clock. And these two end are for the if block and the always block. The last type of loop is the forever loop. We have already come across this forever loop or something similar to that in while writing test benches for the lab programs. So this forever loop does not contain any expression and executes forever until the finished task is encountered. A forever loop can be exited by use of the disable statement. A forever loop is typically used in conjunction with the timing control constructs. So as the name itself specifies, the forever loop is executed infinitely. Okay, it's a continuous statement. It can be exited by using a disable construct or the finish task, which indicates the end of simulation. That's why the forever loop should be always associated with some timing constructs. Otherwise, it will never end. As an example, the best example for forever loop is clock generation. In case of sequential circuits, we need continuous train of clock pulses. So depending on the clock period that we require to generate, you have to write the forever loop accordingly. So here I have register clock. Inside the initial block, first what I do is I initialize clock to 0. And after that I put this forever keyword, forever loop, and so that's what I have to associate it with the time #10 clock equal to not of clock. So as per this code, the clock, at time t equal to 0, clock is initialized to 0. And forever #10, that means after 10 time units, clock equal to not of clock. So the previous value of clock is 0. At 10 time units, I say clock equal to not of clock. So the new value of clock will be complement of the previous value of the clock. So previous value is 0. So now it will become 1. #10 again, that is 10 units from here, that is at 20. Again I say complement the clock. So previous value of clock is 1. Now again it will be complemented to become 0. So for every 10 time units, the clock will be complemented, that is it will be not of the previous value of the clock. So this is how you get the continuous train of clock pulses. Okay, with the pulse period of 10 time units, because I am complementing for every 10 units of 10 time units. Okay, so hence the clock period, that is one cycle means one negative half cycle and one positive half cycle together will be 20 time units. The time period of this clock will be 20 time units. So if you want a clock with the 10 time units, then the pulse period should be 5. That is, for every 5 time units it should complement. So that time you should have here forever #5. Okay. So this will continuously execute forever because of this forever loop. So we see that the forever loop should always be associated with the timing control constructs. Otherwise, if you don't specify the timing control statements, what happens is Verilog would not advance the simulation time at all, and forever it will be executing that same statement, and the rest of the statements in the design would never be executed. That is why, to advance simulation time, the forever loop should always be associated with the timing constructs. I have one more example which synchronizes two register values at every positive edge of the clock. So I have only that piece of code which does this, that is register clock and register X and Y. Inside the initial statement I say forever at positive edge of clock X equal to Y. So whatever values you read in Y, that will be assigned to X for every positive edge of the clock. Okay. So we have come across the various looping statements used in Verilog and various examples associated with these looping statements. Thank you for now.